The one and only Sid Salter, political analyst, Vice President for Strategic Communications, Director of Public Affairs, Mississippi State University, and there are 14 other things here, but we just don't have the time for that. Sid, good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning, Paul. How are you?
I'm good. It is a pleasure having you. Haven't talked to you in a while. So, did you get by all of the graduation ceremonies?
Yeah, saw a lot of shoes going across that stage. But we had 3 commencement ceremonies. It went well. A lot of happy parents and grandparents.
Well, I didn't make this one, but I had a grandson who graduated there in this class too. So proud of him. So there you go. Where do we start here? Number one, I guess your analysis on the 2024 session that went on forever.
Well, this particular session is a 120-day session, and it adds both time and sometimes drama. I thought it was a productive session. As I've written, I think the Medicaid question was a missed opportunity, but I think the conversation advanced farther than it has since Medicaid expansion was an issue. And I do think the issue changed from one of, just absolutely not being considered to, there's a lot of nuance in the debate between the House and Senate. So I actually feel pretty good about the prospects of dealing with health care for the working poor in this state, maybe as early as the next session. But past that issue, obviously some very interesting discussions. MAEP, I thought Rob Robertson's bill there was one that got a lot of attention, and the legislature is beginning to debate difficult issues. And you and I have talked about this before. We've evolved somewhat, and I think modern communications, social media, all that has changed the process. We have more of a Washington-style partisan discipline and partisan approaches to enacting legislation than we did when you and I were young and had hair. So I think we're seeing that across the board in how our legislators approach the process and how they negotiate. I think the most stark image of this session was obviously the conference committee between the Senate and the House on the Medicaid issue, and those kinds of debates. While there were a lot of folks on both sides of the question that wanted that debate to be settled in the media, the conferees and the leadership in both houses depended on that process to get to a pretty fine point and think about it, Paul. If I had told you 5 years ago that the Mississippi legislature would seriously debate Medicaid expansion to the last day of the session, would you have bought that? Probably not. So I think that was an overriding issue. I think we'll see it again next year. I think education reform activities will continue, and I think this period of the COVID pandemic followed by inflation, I think it's made for voters and citizens that are looking for accountability and looking for having state government kind of show its work in policy making, and I think that's generally a healthy thing.
I agree. I know that, and we've said on the air numerous times as far as this Medicaid expansion, and just boil it down to this, whether you're Republican or Democrat, whether you're for or against it, my thought has always been, if it's a good idea in two ways, number one, financially, and secondly, that it's going to help solve a problem in our state, then do it. If it's not. But boy, that's that's been very difficult to just get to through politics and through the numbers, because we've seen all kinds of numbers. Well, it's kind of interesting that the governor, what was it, several days ago, offered a bit of a retort or thank you to the House and Senate for not getting together, and then he laid out some reasons. And regardless of what you think of the governor, when you read those reasons and the transfers from one program to the next, if that's accurate, and I'm guessing it is, it really didn't make a lot of sense as far as the way the final bill that they were considering. So I don't know. Your thoughts?
I don't get into the business of second guessing the governor or the legislative leadership. I will say this. I think that we have rural hospitals across the state that are in trouble. They're in trouble for a number of reasons, and again, it'd take 2 hours to get to this, but Hill-Burton is part of the problem. EMTALA is part of the problem. There are obligations that these hospitals have to deliver treatment regardless of the ability of the patient to pay. That is a province of federal law. And so these rural hospitals who serve rural Mississippians who are isolated from the kind of health care that is available to you and is available to me, they labor in the shadow of that. So you can make the argument that the governor made and make it credibly, but the hospitals are still bound by delivering uncompensated care and by, again, Hill-Burton and EMTALA obligations that make it very difficult, if not impossible, for rural hospitals to operate. You think
Their payment program is the only problems with local hospitals, these rural hospitals?
No, not at all. But it is a foundational problem for them. So, 7 o'clock every day when they open the doors, there are people coming through the door that are going to receive care that have no source of payment, and the hospital is required by law to deliver the care. So people try to reduce Medicaid expansion to sound bites. It's a very complex issue, and the solution that I think we'll eventually get to will be somewhat complex as well. Yeah. I am encouraged that the legislature is continuing the conversation. And I think, both of us have gone through situations where we had a chance to see people going through difficult situations up close and personal. Yeah. I think we have an opportunity to improve the lot of working Mississippians, two-job families who don't have access to health care. And so I think that's a noble pursuit, and I think it's a pursuit that'll continue.
I think both of us speak, as you mentioned and alluded to, with being cancer survivors, that even with good insurance, it's an uphill battle as far as medical. So I can't even imagine what it would be like without it.
Well, Paul, once it'll change your attitude. It was expensive, but when you get to a certain point, boy, it's a bargain.
Yes, yeah. Well, what is it, the million? If you're going to be part of the $1 Million Club, this is not the one you want to be in.
That's right.
I agree with you. I think this will be done next year, one way or the other, and certainly if not next year, then the third year of a 4-year term. I feel that. Then you look at consequences, and since it's the first year of a 4-year term, not a lot of consequences unless, as far as the governor is concerned, somebody decides to retire in Washington. I think people will probably just give them till next year to do this. Your thoughts on that and a couple of other things when we return with Sid Salter, right? As somebody who's been reporting politics for a long time, I think people know that a veteran leadership in the Senate always likes to test a new speaker in the House. If that's the case, what kind of a grade would you give the new speaker?
I really thought that Speaker Jason White had a magnificent first session in that leadership position. I think the speed with which they got some of these bills through the chamber and back across the net toward the Senate, I think that was impressive. I think he has shown himself to be resolute, and he is armed when he gets in a battle of wits. So I would give him a good grade across the board. And let's pick Medicaid. Across the building in the Senate, Medicaid expansion is a tougher vote in many cases for a state senator than it is for a member of the House because of the size of the districts, and you're involving more voters in the election of that senator. So it's always going to be a more difficult vote for a state senator. And so you mentioned before the break influences that might shake this loose next year. You know, obviously the outcome of the presidential election is the number one influence over the expansion debate in Mississippi. Work requirements under Trump, whatever you think of former President Trump, work requirements were not an issue. Southern states, sort of permanent no expansion red states, had begun to, North Carolina, others had begun to look at Medicaid expansion with work requirements. Without work requirements, that's a more difficult vote on both sides of the building. So I give Speaker White excellent marks. I think it was always going to be a tougher vote in the Senate. And I think what Lieutenant Governor Hosemann said at the end of the session, we're in a stronger position to finish this debate in the next session armed with the outcome of the presidential election. And I agree with you. I think we'll see movement on this in the next session.
Didn't get the liquor laws that we wanted. They toyed us with that one. The only thing we came out with was spending $95 million on a new distribution and keeping the state in the liquor business for the next 25 years. But I'm not sure if a lot of people understand or enjoy or agree with that. But your thoughts?
It's not an issue that I've dedicated a lot of time to.
Not even after 5 o'clock, huh?
No. On par with our previous discussion, I've slammed enough stuff that doesn't belong in my body to worry about that much anymore. We don't have a lot of time here. Turning our attention to the politics in Washington, we talked about Donald Trump. Mike Hurst is now the GOP chairman, as far as the replacement is concerned. Slowly but surely, Donald Trump is putting his stamp on the new Republican Party. Well, they almost didn't have a majority. There were so many people attending the trial. They almost lost the majority temporarily on some legislation. But yes, he is. But it's in politics. It's an eternity from now till November, and so I think as we go forward, the race will tighten some. The power of incumbency is always not to be underestimated, but I thought it was very impactful that they're talking about debates, and I think debates with two candidates of this age, I think debates are going to be perhaps more important than ever, but the country is divided. There are not a whole lot of people on either side that don't have some sense of how they're going to vote, so you're fighting over, 6%, 4%, somewhere in that may truly be undecided, or external influences that could change the election.
Let me ask you this final question here. Do you think that this election will be free of any mischievous things like letting illegals vote?
I have no reason to believe that this election will be dramatically different than the last several elections. But
Good answer. Good answer.
The manipulation of technology will continue. And when I say that, anybody who believes everything they see on social media is living in a fool's paradise. So I think that's probably the single biggest influence on the outcome of the election is misinformation, disinformation.
It is. It is.
And it's scary.
Always wish we had more time. Sid, thank you for taking the time, sir. Appreciate it. Have a great weekend.
You too.